When you think of roller coasters at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, everybody usually gravitates towards the big thrilling roller coasters like Pantheon and Apollo's Chariot. But one of the most forgotten about roller coasters at the park, in my honest opinion, one of the most underrated roller coasters I've ever ridden, has to be Verbolten. This is a zero launch roller coaster that opened on May 18th of 2012. And my goodness, this ride absolutely exceeded every expectation I had on this roller coaster when I first saw about it. It is in the very back of the park in the Oktoberfest section, and if you cross a very iconic bridge off to the left-hand side, you will see the massive, amazing drop that looks like you were just looking at Expedition Everest, only in a more open context. This ride is only 2,835 feet in track. That drop that you see from the bridge is 88 feet tall and has a top speed of 53 miles an hour over what is stated on RCDB to be a 3.5 minute ride experience with two launches and a surprise on the inside that you definitely should not tell your best friends until they ride it firsthand. And we'll talk all about that in this review of, in my opinion, the most underrated roller coaster I have been on currently, Verbolten.
Now get ready. Here we go.
As I've mentioned before, Verbolten was created by Zero, which is the same company that, oddly enough, creates a lot of those very long trained family coasters like the Harley Quinn Crazy Train at Great Adventure, just to name one, for instance. And what's really cool is that this ride is definitely one of those roller coasters that was way more intense than anyone ever anticipated it being. It has a 48-inch height requirement in order for you to ride it. And I'm going to be totally honest with you, I kind of agree with that very much so. And we'll talk about why that is momentarily. But one of the best things about this ride has to be the operations. Now, that might seem like a stretch because the operations in a lot of the SeaWorld parks aren't the greatest. But Busch Gardens Williamsburg, especially, usually gets heavy crowds. And how do they resolve that issue? They do double loading stations, and they can dispatch even asynchronously if one station isn't ready, which is really cool. So as soon as you enter the station, you're given either direction to go either right or left depending on which one you prefer. And then that sets you up for whether you are like the first train or the second train to go out into what is the Black Forest. And essentially, the story is that you don't want it's that you want to escape the Black Forest. You're going into the Black Forest just to escape the Black Forest, which is an interesting story, I guess. But outside of that, you load into your train, seats two across. The lap bars are very loose, which already made a little bit of some concern out of me. But of course, as the coaster junkie that I am, I of course did not mind this one bit. But then, of course, knowing of the surprise inside of the Black Forest, some others weren't quite aware in my group, which only made that experience way more awesome. So let's talk about it. You dispatch out of the station. If you are in the first row, if you're in the first train towards the front, which usually has the longer wait. So I usually waited for the second group train, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, you dispatch and you take a left-hand turn, and this gives you like a small drop as you get closer to the show building that houses the Black Forest. You angle yourself upwards a little bit, and then you launch forwards and upwards into the Black Forest. And immediately, as you reach the precipice of that launch, you are immediately tossed into an airtime hill heading to the right. And this is in absolute pitch black darkness. It is incredible. You don't even know it's coming, even if you know the layout of this roller coaster, and it's sensational. In the back row, you are absolutely tossed out of your seat at this point, and it is incredible. And not only that, but the intensity keeps on building because not only that, after you continue making your way around to the right, you then enter an upwards helix heading to the left. And this helix could be defined as one of the most intense moments on a roller coaster. It is a very intense helix. When you are in pitch black darkness and you basically are spiraling, it is kind of terrifying. This is a very scary helix, and it is a very fast helix. So fast that after the helix, you hit pretty much a set of block breaks that essentially stops the train dead in its tracks. After this, you slowly make your way out of that block breaks. You enter a small drop heading to the left that drops in and up, and then you start to hear the bristles of trees around you, and these purplish colors start to illuminate around you. As you continue forward, you slowly begin to hear more and more of these angry trees and these bristles, and you wonder what's going to happen next. You advance forwards and you start to see a little silhouette of a lady in the front. If you're in the front car, you definitely see this way more than you do in the back. But you see the silhouette of a lady that looks to be trapped into these tree branches and bristles. But as soon as the lights turn on once again, you are dropped vertically. That's right, folks. There is a vertical drop track on this roller coaster. This is without question the best part of the ride. If you don't know what's going to happen, you probably are going to piss your pants. It is that shocking. Not only that, the drop itself, though it's only 18 feet, is incredible. It is such a sudden jerk that you are tossed out of your seat every single time. And as I've mentioned previously, these lap bars are very loose. So when you are basically tossed up into your seat, you kind of feel the lap bar go up with you, and it makes the sensation feel way more exposing than you would think from any other drop tower. And it creates a fantastic moment and surprise that leaves everybody laughing at the end of it. And you think the ride is done. We haven't even gotten to the cool part yet. You dip down after the vertical drop tack and you launch forwards. You go through a right bend and a left bend, and you come to a crawl at the top of this shed looking thing. Remember that I mentioned that there's a very iconic sightline that you could see from a bridge. You are at that point right now. Everybody and their mother will probably have their cameras out watching this drop happen, and will see this thing as they walk into Oktoberfest. You slowly crest over and then you drop and you angle yourselves to the left. From here, it is basically a travel right back up the hill into the brake run. You come across the photo op, which is off on the left hand side on that small bunny hill before you make the left turn into the brake run. This ride has the capability of running 5 trains on the track if all goes well. They basically use the top of the block brake before the big drop as kind of a 5th train holding if they need to, which is really cool that they could run that many trains, and they probably do during the summer as well. When I visited during the winter event, they were running 4 trains, but the line was still moving very swiftly. Verbolten is an underrated and underappreciated roller coaster through every extent of the meme. It was my favorite roller coaster that I got to ride when I was at Busch Gardens, and man, I'm telling you, it is one experience that I will never forget when I went to this park. Overall, if there's one roller coaster that you need to definitely prioritize on your trip to Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Verbolten has to be somewhere at the top of that list. One of the most underappreciated roller coasters I've ever been on, and has often been relegated because of some of the other roller coasters like Loch Ness Monster and Alpengeist, and because of that, many people usually categorizes Verbolten as a family coaster. I got off of Verbolten and rode it 3 times and came with the conclusion that basically you cannot categorize this coaster as a family coaster. That's how intense and insane this coaster is. It feels like a true extreme roller coaster, and Zero went out of the park with this one. And I would have hoped that there would have been more of these around here, because the success of this coaster, for me anyway, just continues to grow and develop more and more and more. The more I think back to my experience on riding Verbolten, the more I continue to remember how fantastic every part of that coaster was, and makes me even more eager to get back on this ride, and even compare it to some of the other coasters that I missed on my trip to Busch Gardens. Let me know what you guys think of Verbolten at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and always thank your ride operators. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you in the parks very soon. Goodbye.
Here we go.
Verbolten, head back. Verbolten, head back.
Here we go.